0412 local time, USS Abraham Lincoln, Arabian Sea, 500 miles from Iran's coast. A contact is closing on the carrier at low altitude and it is not responding to de-escalatory transmissions. Shahed 139, Iranian reconnaissance variant, launched 90 minutes earlier from a coastal site near Bandar Abbas. It should not be this close. It is this close. The F-35C on Alert 5 scrambles off the catapult. The engagement lasts under 2 minutes. The drone goes into the water. This is February 3rd, 2026. The United States and Iran are not yet at war. The F-35C just fired the first shot of the conflict that hasn't started yet. 25 days later, the Lincoln's air wing is flying round-the-clock strike missions into Iran. F/A-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growlers, E-2D Hawkeyes orbiting over the Arabian Sea. And above all of them, invisible to every radar Iran has deployed, the F-35C-8 aircraft, 1 carrier, 1 squadron, Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 3, 1-4, the Black Knights, the only F-35C unit assigned to Carrier Air Wing 9. But this is not a video about an aircraft that is dangerous because it is stealthy. This is a video about why an F-35C running low on fuel over the Strait of Hormuz is more dangerous than one with a full tank. Iranian commanders have not solved that problem yet. American naval aviators already have. The F-35C Lightning II is the carrier-specific variant of the most advanced 5th-generation stealth fighter in the world. It looks similar to the F-35A the Air Force flies and the F-35B the Marines use for short takeoff. It is not the same aircraft. The C variant has the largest wing of the 3 models. That matters. A larger wing generates more lift at the slow speeds required for a controlled carrier approach. 15 knots can be the difference between a controlled trap on a pitching deck and a broken aircraft. The undercarriage is reinforced to absorb a carrier trap that hits the deck at around 700 feet per minute of vertical speed. An arrestor hook sits under the tail, engineered to catch one of 4 steel cables stretched across the landing area. The wingtips fold for deck storage. It carries more internal fuel than the A variant, which translates to a combat radius slightly longer than the Air Force version. That matters when the nearest friendly runway is hundreds of miles away over contested water, and it carries the AN/APG-81. The APG-81 is an active electronically scanned array radar capable of simultaneous air-to-air tracking, air-to-surface targeting, electronic attack, and synthetic aperture mapping. One radar doing jobs that on older aircraft required 4 different systems and 3 different aircraft. The distributed aperture system is the part that changes everything. 6 infrared cameras built into the skin of the aircraft, full 360-degree coverage around the airframe. The pilot's helmet-mounted display stitches every feed together in real time and projects the composite directly onto the visor. The pilot looks down through the floor of the cockpit and sees the ocean below, looks through the back of his own seat and sees what is behind him, looks through the structure of the wing and sees what is hidden on the other side. The pilot sees through the aircraft. No other fighter in the world does this, and no other fighter in the world does it from a carrier deck, 4.5 acres of sovereign American territory parked within strike range of Iran's entire southern coastline. That is the platform. Now look at the mission. 3 jobs, 1 aircraft, over the Strait of Hormuz. Every F-35C sortie is running 3 missions simultaneously. First mission, air dominance. The APG-81 scans the airspace over Iran and the Gulf continuously. Every aircraft that takes off from a southern Iranian airfield is tracked. Every helicopter crossing the coast is identified. Every commercial flight in the region is correlated against the civil air picture. If an Iranian fighter attempts to scramble, the F-35C sees it before the fighter's wheels leave the runway. The AIM-120 AMRAAM missile the F-35C carries internally has a reach that crosses the strait twice over. The Iranian pilot does not know he has been detected. He does not know the missile is coming until the seeker activates on terminal approach. Second mission, strike. The F-35C's internal weapons bay carries approximately 2,000 pounds of precision-guided munitions while maintaining full stealth configuration. Joint Direct Attack Munitions, GBU series laser-guided bombs, Future integration for the stand-in attack weapon is already in the pipeline. The aircraft enters contested airspace stealthy, releases the munition, and egresses stealthy. There is no warning for the ground radar station that the strike is inbound, because the radar station never sees the aircraft. By the time the F-35C is visible on any kind of sensor, the bomb has already left the bay. CENTCOM's public targeting list for Operation Epic Fury included more than 8,000 Iranian sites struck. The F-35Cs from USS Abraham Lincoln contributed to that list from day one. Third mission, electronic warfare. The AN/AL-Q239 digital electronic warfare system inside the F-35C is capable of passive detection and active jamming across a broad frequency spectrum. When an Iranian surface-to-air missile site activates its search radar, the F-35C records the signal. When a coastal missile battery illuminates a target, the F-35C identifies the battery's exact location. That data is transmitted in real time over the multifunction advanced data link to every other aircraft and ship in the strike group. The Super Hornets, the Growlers, the Hawkeyes, every destroyer in the screen. One aircraft, 3 missions, every flight, every sortie. No other aircraft in the U.S. Navy does all 3 at stealth range without alerting the adversary. It is being tracked. That is the mission. Now look at what the pilot actually sees. The fused picture. An F-35C pilot over the Strait of Hormuz has on his main display one fused picture. Every commercial shipping track in the region, every Iranian fast boat that has left port in the last 4 hours, every Iranian aircraft airborne within 300 miles, every Iranian coastal radar currently emitting, every Iranian missile battery that has activated its targeting systems in the last 10 minutes. The fused picture is not just what his own aircraft is seeing, it is what every other F-35 in the theater is seeing. Do you see what the E-2D Hawkeye orbiting over the Arabian Sea is seeing? What the destroyer's Spy-6 radars are tracking, what the P-8A Poseidon on patrol over the Gulf of Oman is seeing. Every sensor in the strike group feeding into one picture, updated continuously, displayed on a single screen. When an Iranian fast boat departs Bandar Abbas at wave height, the F-35C pilot sees it before the destroyer's bridge watch does. When a Shahed drone launch plume lights up on infrared, the F-35C pilot sees it before the launch is complete. When a coastal radar at a southern IRGC facility rotates to a new target, the F-35C pilot sees the radar signature change and the targeting site's grid coordinates appear on his display at the same moment. That is why CENTCOM positioned the F-35C as the sharp end of the U.S. Navy's presence over the strait. That is also why Iran has been trying for 6 weeks to find a way to shoot one down. They almost did. March 19, 2026. Central Iran, a US F-35 is hit. CENTCOM confirmed the aircraft was flying a combat mission over Iran when it was struck by Iranian fire. The pilot made an emergency landing at a US airbase in the region. His condition was stable. Iranian IRGC officials claimed credit within hours. The specific weapon used has not been confirmed in open sources. Iran's subsequent statements described the engagement in general terms. The variant of F-35 involved was not publicly confirmed as the C model. Either F-35A or F-35C would be consistent with the reporting. The writer flags the caveat: if the overall claim is confirmed, and at the time of this recording confirmation remains partial, this was the first Iranian interception of any F-35 variant in combat. The first time any adversary had damaged any F-35 in combat anywhere in the world. It proved that the Iranian air defense network, with approximately 80 to 85% of its pre-war capability already destroyed, retained lethal potential. It proved that a sufficiently adaptive adversary, using emissions-controlled infrared detection and passive targeting specifically chosen to avoid triggering the F-35's radar warning receivers, could find the gap. The F-35C over the strait is still the deadliest aircraft in the theater. It is no longer untouchable. The low fuel paradox. Now run the math. Every F-35C pilot over the strait is running in his head on every sortie. Fuel is finite. A single F-35C launching from USS Abraham Lincoln departs the deck with internal fuel for roughly 90 minutes to 2 hours of mission time, depending on throttle management, weapons load, afterburner use, and distance to target. External fuel tanks are not typically carried, they compromise stealth, and the F-35C was not designed to fly with them under normal combat conditions. Aerial refueling from a KC-46 or KC-135 extends the mission, but tanker orbits are themselves high-value targets in contested airspace, and the Navy manages those tracks carefully. When the fuel state in the cockpit hits bingo, the precise number at which the pilot has just enough fuel to recover to the carrier plus the minimum reserve regulation requires, a decision becomes mandatory. Option 1, break off the patrol, egress immediately, recover to the carrier. Option 2, stay in the fight, except that the normal recovery margin is gone. Commit to engagement here and now, refuel airborne, or divert to a friendly land base on the way home. Iranian commanders looking at an F-35C orbit on their own sensor, if they have any sensor tracking the F-35C at all, which most of the time they do not, cannot see the cockpit fuel gauge. They cannot tell from outside the aircraft whether the pilot is at the start of his mission with 2 hours of loiter remaining, or whether the pilot is 3 minutes from the bingo call. That uncertainty is the weapon. An Iranian fastboat commander contemplating a run at a tanker transiting the shipping lane has to assume the F-35C overhead is at the peak of its engagement window, right now. An Iranian coastal missile crew contemplating activating its search radar has to assume the F-35C overhead has already recorded every emission it will ever make, and that the response munition is already airborne. If the pilot has 2 hours of loiter, the response comes in seconds. If the pilot has 3 minutes of loiter, the response still comes in seconds. Iran cannot tell the difference. That is why experienced naval aviators will tell you that a low-fuel F-35C is more dangerous than a full-fuel one. A full-fuel F-35C can afford patience. Observe. Wait for the highest value target. Let the engagement develop into the optimal geometry. A low-fuel F-35C cannot afford patience. Engage now, or leave now. And because it cannot afford patience, every threat in its sensor envelope becomes a potential immediate engagement. The pilot is not waiting for the perfect shot anymore. He is taking the shot he has. From Iran's perspective, the danger window is not when the F-35C has a full tank. The danger window is when the F-35C is on bingo, and Iran cannot see bingo. Every F-35C orbit over the strait therefore operates inside a permanent uncertainty envelope. Iranian commanders have to assume any F-35C they suspect is overhead might be at bingo, might be fully fueled, might have already identified their position, might have already committed a weapon. The worst-case response timing has to be treated as the actual response timing. That assumption is what shuts down Iranian operations in the Strait, even when no F-35C is currently engaging anything. Resolution USS Abraham Lincoln has been on station through the entire campaign. CENTCOM confirmed Carrier Air Wing 9 deploys with 8 F-35C stealth fighters operating alongside the Super Hornet and Growler squadrons. The Black Knights of VMFA 314 have flown combat sorties every day since February 28th. Iran has launched missiles at the Lincoln, none have reached the ship. Iran has attempted electronic interference against F-35C detection and emissions. The F-35C is still flying the mission. From April 13th onward, with the mine clearance effort underway in the Strait, the F-35C assumed an additional role: overwatch for the blockade, stealth coverage for the Avenger-class minesweepers and the coalition mine clearance vessels, quick reaction capability against any Iranian asset that attempts to interfere with the reopening of the shipping lanes. Every destroyer in the screen has the F-35C's sensor feed. Every tanker captain making the decision about whether to transit the cleared corridor is making that decision with the knowledge that whatever an F-35C sees, the destroyer sees, and whatever the destroyer sees is minutes away from a kinetic response. That calculation is what is slowly reopening the Strait, not the destroyers alone, not the minesweepers alone. The air dominance guarantee sitting 200 miles overhead, stealthy, fused, and invisible. The cost. The F-35C is not a cheap aircraft. Each one costs approximately $94 million to produce. Training a carrier-qualified F-35C pilot takes years and a 7-figure investment per aviator. The production line at Lockheed Martin's Fort Worth plant builds them in volumes that cannot immediately replace combat losses. The Block 4 upgrade, designed to add significant new weapons integration, longer-range air-to-air capability, and enhanced electronic warfare, remains behind schedule. The TR-3 software rollout that enables Block 4 has been delayed. The F-35Cs currently over the strait are flying with pre-Block 4 capability. They are still the most capable aircraft in the region. They are not yet the aircraft they were designed to become. Iran's next iteration of air defense will be written around what happened on March 19th, the emissions-controlled detection cycle that found an F-35 over central Iran, the passive targeting that did not trigger the radar warning receiver, the specific engagement geometry that produced damage to the world's most advanced stealth fighter. Every adversary that operates in contested airspace against the F-35, China, Russia, North Korea, is studying that engagement. The lessons are already in the planning cycle. Forward threat. The F-35C will keep flying. The carrier will keep launching. The low fuel paradox will keep operating. But the aircraft that could not be touched has been touched once. Iran now knows, with operational certainty, that the F-35 can be damaged by a ground-based air defense system operating under the right conditions. It does not matter how many F-35s Iran failed to hit in the preceding weeks. One hit was enough to prove the vulnerability exists. Every subsequent IRGC air defense doctrine will be built around replicating that engagement. Meanwhile, the Black Knights continue the mission. The carrier continues to launch sorties. The APG-81 continues to scan. The distributed aperture system continues to stitch the 360-degree picture. The multifunction advanced data link continues to feed every other shooter in the strike group. And the fuel gauge continues to count down. On every aircraft, on every sortie. Iran cannot see it counting. Iran has to assume it is already at zero. That is the weapon nobody can out-engineer. Not with a new missile, not with better radar, not with a different tactic, because the uncertainty is the weapon. And the uncertainty does not go away. When the F-35C lands, it gets replaced by the next F-35C launching off the catapult. The F-35C shot down Iran's drone before the war began. It has been over the strait ever since. Iran has fired at it. Iran has tried to jam it. The F-35C is still flying. The carrier is still launching.